You mentioned putting the steering stem really, really tight, and that's something that we've heard from Jett and a few other riders, especially I'm thinking of like the video where Jett was talking to Deegan. I think this is before Deegan went pro, obviously. And he was like, "Hey, mate, you gotta like get that steering stem nice and tight, move those levers in and stuff." There's a video, I can't remember like whose it was. Do you recommend the tight steering stem and the tight setting for most tracks, or is that just a if the track's technical or if you have this sort of XYZ condition? What's your recommendation for that? Because it's a really cool kind of nuance that people can do with their bike setup.
Yeah, I'd be curious to ask you. I would say I don't see the negative in running it tight in any situation because it just settles the front end and makes it feel like you have a steering stabilizer in a sense. And I bet you a lot of the pro guys, I'd be curious to just go up to everybody's bike and feel it. I bet you a lot of the pro guys still haven't gone that tight with it because of how different it does feel when you jump. And it's a lot of adjustment. So when you guys tighten that steering stem, try it. I highly recommend everybody try it. As soon as you catch air, you're going to be like, whoa, this is different because you turn the bars and it's moving the bike. There's no question. But once you get comfortable with that, I feel like I can scrub better. I can whip better.
Oh, okay.
I can, if there are ruts on the landing, I literally can move the bike more in the air. I'm a huge believer in it now, and I would run it on any track in any condition. Would there be a negative, do you think, to having it stiff in some conditions? What would be the negative to it? Or would there be none?
I personally, I don't think so. I think there are positives when it comes to, like you said, like technical tracks, rougher tracks, because it is almost like you have that built-in stabilizer. The very obvious, you're gonna wear out your bearings a little bit quicker, but people are changing them once this season anyway, so, or you should be, so you're pretty good. I would say the place where I probably would feel it and feel like the awkwardness would be exactly like what you mentioned when you're jumping or when you're coming into, especially like on a more harder packed section, when you're coming into a corner and you don't have as much separation between the front end and rear end, where every little twitch you make with the front end can affect you at corner entry, and you wouldn't really necessarily feel that as much on a looser, more rugged track because the bike's bouncing around and doing its, being grabbed anyway. So that's where I would say I'd feel it the most. But it's interesting when you mentioned like, oh, I feel that definitely over jumps or scrubbing, because to me it almost has a sensation of like when it's windy out and the bike gets grabbed a little bit here or there.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, the first time I did it, I told myself I had to remind myself to have patience to give it a shot, because I did one lap and I'm like, whoa, no way. This feels bizarre. I'm turning it right back. And I just said, okay, trust it, do a few more laps. And sure enough, I started within 3-4 laps, that odd feeling of like almost barrel rolling myself.
Yeah.
It's sort of what it felt like seriously, like a crosswind coming. I learned how to use that to my advantage and be able to manipulate the bike if I need it. And now I'm a huge fan. So yeah, you should. Have you tried it lately on your bike?
Not on my most recent bike.
Okay.
I think I did it like second or third year in big bikes. Like what somebody told me to put it pretty stiff, because like the Hondas came with that built-in steering stabilizer for a couple years, and I was like, man, that's super cool. And someone was like, hey, I just tighten yours a little bit, and it felt awkward. But I remember I did after a while. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of have, as much as it does again connect the front end and rear end, so you don't have as much independent movement. It almost feels like once you get used to it, you do have a bit more control in a way. You know what I mean? So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I gotta do some bike work later, so I'll probably mess with that and do some other little tweaks and throw on my Phoenix handlebars, Moto Academy editions.
If you guys enjoyed this podcast clip and you want to listen to full episodes, you can do so on Spotify and Apple Music. If you want to send in your own video submission, you can join us in the Moto Academy family inside of the Moto Academy app by just going to themotoacademy.com. That's also where you can sign up for a class. Okay, guys, see you next episode.